So today we're looking at the hero talents for the Stormbringer and Totemic. I've looked a little bit at Stormbringer so far. I haven't looked at Totemic. I don't know if these are actually the real ones, but I noticed that Wowhead finally had it updated today, so maybe maybe this is like the real deal. So Stormbringer is the more lightning oriented of the two builds that you can do. Um, and every 40 Maelstrom weapon stack spent replaces your Lightning Bolt with Tempest, and Tempest does an amount of nature damage to your target and an amount of nature damage to enemies near your target. So 40 Maelstrom weapon stacks. I mean, if Maelstrom works the same way that it does now, where it's you always want to spend 10, that's only four Lightning Bolts or Ele Blasts or whatever have you. Which is fine. At this point, it seems like you would then be like, you'd have to weave your Lightning Bolt. Right now, you want to cast Ele Blast whenever you're using Maelstrom, so this would be like another iteration where you're using Lightning Bolt instead of Ele Blast. Just right off the bat, when I was thinking of Stormbringer, Stormbringer is already a talent name for Shaman. Stormbringer is when our Storm Strike gets reset. It's our mastery. And so when I was thinking Stormbringer, I was thinking something that would interact with Storm Strike in some way, that would make it kind of a cool, flashy button. We have like a lot of rotational bloat already, and so changing our Lightning Bolt to be something else that probably, maybe it'll be a little bit visually different. Like, I'm just not a fan of this. I don't think this is very cool. Then basically it seems like Stormbringer is based around like the idea of building and spending Maelstrom and getting crit and stuff like that. So this could be nice as a PvP player, like having your nature damage just always reduce people's movement speed. A snare is nice. We'd be less reliant on like the weirdo hailstorm stuff to get consistent slows up, so that's good. So this supercharge Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning have a 35% chance to refund 3 Maelstrom weapons stacks when they're spent. Our Maelstrom economy is already really overbloated, so I don't think that this is super great. Like, I'm not super excited about the idea of like having just a ton of Maelstrom all the time. I'd rather have like less Maelstrom and have it be much more impactful than like a ton of so that because we're already almost always overcapping, right? Like, we have like feast or famine depending on your build, and so this just feels kind of like tone deaf to how Enhance actually plays right now. Okay, Storm Swell, Tempest only strikes a single target. Okay, cool. When Tempest strikes more than okay, so some cleave. Next 3. Oh, so that gives us like built-in. See, okay, this is kind of cool. The arc discharge, like having the Fist of Rodin legendary effect, Stormkeeper, just built in. That's actually kind of cool. Stormkeeper is fun. Whenever Enhance has had the ability to play with Stormkeeper, it hasn't simmed the best, but it always feels really good to press that. So that's kind of cool. We get another source of dogs. Cool, love dogs. 10% less damage to you for. Interesting. Okay, that's fine. Give us a little bit of sustain. That's cool. All right, Lightning Rod. Nice. Okay, cool. So we just pretend to be elemental shamans. Nice. Crash Lightning Chain Lightning. Okay, just a damage buff. All right, and then here we go. The penultimate talent at the top of it. Storms have a chance to strike your target. What? Is this just giving us overload? So it's giving us overload, it looks like, plus another. Oh, Jesus Christ. There's just so many things to track when it comes to Enhancement Shaman. And this is just like more stuff to track when you find that damage window. Like, I think the thing with Enhance right now is that we really need, we need less procs and less crazy stuff to track, and for our abilities that we use to be more important. Like, if you do X amount, say you do 1,000,000 damage in a 5-minute fight or whatever, X amount of damage over X amount of, or Y amount of time, right? I'd rather that we have fewer casts of the things that we're doing, but each of them feels more impactful. The reason why Enhance feels like a 300 APM spec right now is because we have so many procs and we have to press our button so many times to do damage. I'd so much rather We just have like impactful damage moments. Like, I don't know. Stormbringer feels like it could be really cool, maybe, but it just like Lightning Bolt has kind of taken a back seat this whole expansion because of Ele Blast. And so it doesn't feel great that that's like what we're looking at right now. So let's take a look at Totemic next. Oh, not yet implemented. Never mind. We're not going to look at that. So instead, we're going to look at, we'll go back to Stormbringer and we'll look at just the enhanced talents. Right away, the one thing that I see that's different is that this is no longer Wind Fury weapon. This is actually a huge change that I'm super, super happy about because I feel like whenever I don't take Wind Fury weapon, I feel horrible. Like, I know that it's the second choice node, but there have been builds, significant amounts of builds this whole expansion where you don't take Wind Fury weapon at all, and that should never be an option, and I'm glad that we're finally getting that. So that's really good. I like Healing Surge being more effective on ourselves. Just having built-in like tankiness is really important, especially with like the recent PvP changes to how Healing Surge works. That's really, really nice. Here we go. Wind Fury. Okay, so we get built-in Forceful Winds, Unruly Winds. I feel like Unruly Winds should just be the way that Wind Fury weapon works at this point. Like, it should just be 3 attacks, because that's the way that it works in, like, Cata Classic, you know? And I just feel like that's kind of the way that we want Wind Fury to work. It feels chunkier if it's 3 hits. Okay, so that's fine. I mean, largely our talent tree is the same. We still have this weird pathing from Sundering into Feral Lunge. I feel like Feral Lunge could be like higher up on there. I don't really like that our gap closer is hidden behind Sundering, even though Sundering's good, like, depending on tuning, obviously Sundering is fun and good. I wish it was a stun again, but it has its moments. I wish that it was easier to get Feral Lunge, because I feel like every melee should have a gap closer that is readily accessible to them. And the fact that Enhances is hidden halfway down the tree right here is just, it's really strange to me. Another thing, so the way that Enhances worked this whole expansion is that we either have like a Fire/Frost build, which goes down this side and then snakes across over here, or we have like a Wind/Lightning build, which does the opposite, right? And I understand why, in the sense of thematically having a build that is Fire/Frost oriented, you kind of want to have Ice Strike. What I really wish is that we just, this second part of what Ice Strike does, where it just makes Frost Shock hit harder, I just wish that was built into Hailstorm, honestly. Like, because that's what Hailstorm is attempting to do. It's like, okay, you spend Maelstrom and then your Frost Shock hits harder. I hate having to like preload my Ice Strike, then spend Maelstrom, then Frost. Like, it's just adding an unnecessary level of complexity. And the issue with Enhance is that there are so many degrees of complexity already in our rotation to get things correct that this just feels unnecessary and bloaty. I dislike it quite a lot. It would be way more fun if we could just like build and spend Maelstrom and then Frost Shock for a ton of damage, right? And it already cleaves, That would be really cool. That would just make it easier. It'd just make it easier to play. Or even if you wanted to make it like a choice node, like say you have like Earth Shock as an enhanced shaman and Frost Shock is your cleave option, and Earth Shock is your single target option. I'd be fine with that. I don't like that you have to like load up your rotation in this way to like have these big burst moments. It just it makes sense when that's one thing in an isolated moment, but like everything all together all at once just feels so bad. It's so bloaty. The other big thing, if I have one other thing that I say about Enhance right now, is, to me, and I guess this is kind of an issue with Stormbringer that I have in my head from a design standpoint, is that we should never be spending more than 5 Maelstrom at a time. And the reason why is because each of those stacks gives us 20% off of the cast time, right? So naturally 5 is the point where that makes sense to cast that. In terms of our Maelstrom economy, we got to this point where like we go up to 10 and we spend 10 and we get to do a bunch of damage, and that's really cool. But if we could just have that same amount of damage at 5, it's like, because Maelstrom is just combo points, right? Like it's not inherently better that we stack to 10. That doesn't make sense. If we could stack to 5 and do the same amount of damage that we're doing at 10, but still be able to stack up to 10, right? You have this kind of interesting Maelstrom economy stuff going on. And I think that would be a much more interesting way to play the spec. Overall, I mean, we still have kind of the same stuff. There really are not any major changes to the tree other than giving us Wind Fairy weapon baseline, which is something I'm pretty happy about. I'd really, if I could say a few things for this tree and for Shaman going forward that are sort of like my hopes and my aspirations for it, I'd really like to see us have a change where we can only spend up to 5 Maelstrom, still do the same damage, still do good damage. Obviously, I don't want our stuff nerfed, but I'd like to be able to spend only 5, but cap up to 10, right? So that we can be spending and building in sort of a more interesting way. That's one thing. Second thing is that I feel like we need less rotational bloat and less like things that modify other like we're a spec that has maybe not the most things that modify other things in our rotation, but we're up there certainly. And I'd like to see that reduced and just have some of our abilities like be chunkier, hit harder. Like I don't want to have to cast. In some of these arenas, I'm casting, or even in dungeons or whatever, I'm casting Stormstrike. 40 times, and I'm still not matching the damage of something else in that rotation. And sure, Stormstrike is kind of a builder or whatever, but historically, Stormstrike has also been a big damage thing. When you press that button, it feels good to hit it. And the reason why we've had so many things that are like, okay, well, I'll reset your Stormstrike, is because it feels good to press that button. It doesn't feel good to press Stormstrike anymore. It feels good to press like Lava Lash when you have Hot Hand, but other than that, there's not, I'd say that the only abilities that really feel good to press right now as an Enhanced Shaman are Ele Blast, Primwave Lightning Bolt, Hot Hand Lava Lash, and super buffed Frost Shocked. Like that's all that feels good to press. Like which is sad, right? Like Stormstrike is like our bread and butter, and Stormbringer is like where we want to get that. Like Stormbringer should be centered around like our lightning, and this doesn't interact at all with Stormstrike, which is like the core of why we deal lightning damage. Like that's the unique thing about Enhancement. And I know that Stormbringer has to be shared between Elemental and Enhanced, so like it kind of can't interact with Stormstrike. So maybe that's like a hole in my argument. And it has to be centered around our lightning damage with Lightning Bolt. Well, maybe I've just dug myself in a hole here. But point being, with all of this, I'd like to see it, I don't know, maybe interact a little bit more broadly. Yeah, I don't know what they do with Elemental for Stormbringer. I guess it makes sense that it has to be Lightning Bolt. And it has to be sort of like all those things, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Totemic will be more interesting and more like what I'm looking for. I guess I just have this tint when I'm looking at Enhance right now, where I want our abilities to be punchier, and I want there to be less modifiers on our stuff. And this to me seems like more modifiers, and more like if you do enough of this, then your ability will finally hit hard enough. And I'm not a big fan of that. So those are my thoughts on the Stormbringer Enhancement Hero Talent Tree, if this is even, real. But thanks for listening, and I will catch you next time.